Welcome to Bulldog Talk, a podcast presented by Salina Curriculum. On today's podcast, special guest Kevin Honeycutt with us. And we're going to take some time and learn more about the great things that he's doing for kids and teachers all across the country. So Kevin, first of all, I wanted to say thank you for coming in and working with our staff during our opening day meeting. Do you want to talk or share anything about that?
It was so much fun. Big wide room, and it kind of walked back and forth. This is a wide stage, but their faces, the body language, you know, they need that. Everyone needs, after COVID and everything we've been through, they need that push. And I know that's why you called me, because that's what I do. And I live for that, because in my gig, I don't get to teach their kids. I get to teach them, and I teach their kids through them, which is this wonderful act of faith. And today it just felt like they needed what I could bring. It was wonderful. And the people who stayed after to come over and say, oh my gosh, we're doing that, and we're doing that, and we're doing that. You live for that. So thanks for letting me come.
Not a problem. It's always great having you in, and we're hoping to form a partnership with you to where you can have more access to our students and members of our school community. So we're eager to get that started. We didn't take time at the opening to, formally introduce you, but I want to use this time to let you tell a little bit of your story. What is it that you do, and a little bit where you come from.
I'll go back a little ways and then come forward. I'm a child that grew up in foster homes and poverty and abuse, and I'm a kid that statistically shouldn't be sitting here with you right now, the one you worry about. And somehow, I think I was always the sociologist of my own plight. I would stand outside of it and look and think, why is Dad doing that? Why is Mom doing that? That was interesting to me. I don't know, it was a safe place to be, rather than in the middle of the milieu. I was on the outside studying it. I think that really helped me get out, because I thought, well, when I do this, I'm not going to do it that way, I'm not going to do it that way. So I got this crazy idea I was going to go to college, which in my family, you don't say that out loud, or people make fun of you for even saying it. It's hard. I somehow managed to get that done and became a teacher, and then I couldn't wait. I thought, that's it. That's the end of my journey. Just to be a teacher and be a Honeycutt is like winning the lottery, But then I had more ideas. And it's funny how if you drive 5 miles, you can see 5 miles farther. But if you never drive that, you won't see. So what's in the high beams, what's in the low beams? And my high beams saw something else. I had a job much like your man over here. And by the way, he's amazing because he's a guy who figures out how to do it, not why you can't. He doesn't have a million reasons why you can't. He figures things out. So thank you for everything today. You made it look easy. Anyway, but I had his job. I had to travel all over Kansas and broadcast people and then process the video and then publish it. But one day I thought, I think I should be a keynote. I'm recording all these keynotes, and this other lady said, I think you're on the wrong side of the camera. And that's a pretty big notion. But as an actor and as an acting teacher and as a playwright, to me, education has always been performance, right? So that's the first time I got on stage and tried this. I thought, I'm home here. So teaching was like right next door to this, because I'm still teaching in a different way. And I'm somewhere in the world. I've been everywhere now after all these years. And now I want to do that work that you were talking about. I want to do work that takes years with one school and prove something works. Because this is fun. I call it the dog and pony show. You can wow people, but it's a drive-by. I want to stick. I want to come in, and 3 years later we say, we built an entrepreneur program that we can stand beside and say, I can't believe we did that. You know what I mean? Real success takes some time, I think. So yeah, I look forward to that. I hope you get to that.
It takes a lot of time to do some things. And Kevin, you talked about making some connections. If someone's looking to do your line of work, how do they get started? What is it? How do we are able to look back now at the career that you've had, but maybe tell us a little bit about how you got started with that specifically, and some advice that you could give to our people out there.
Thank you, because no one ever asked that question. What I want to do is talk to all your drama kids, because most of the kids I directed in theater wanted to go to New York and have their shot, and statistics here, they're going to end up off Broadway, mostly waiting tables and whatever. It's a hard life because there's only so many slots. But the real money is to be made in the technical theater. They can get paid. So if I got kids that know how to gaff and know how to wire and know how to rig a show, they're more likely to get hired. So that's one thing. But I want to talk to them about this thing I do, because this really is performance. You see, right? I call it infotainment. If you can do that, I mean, someone that gets up here and goes, wah, 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 and everyone goes, oh my God, it's going to be a long day. You've seen that. And we hire that. I mean, some of the people who write the books that we like, that inform our instruction, shouldn't be talking. They're great authors who shouldn't talk, right? But there are people who just naturally are performers. It just comes out of them. And those are the people I want to talk to. So I have these trainings where people come for 2 days. They're called Launch Me Academies. Kids, adults, anybody. And basically day one is the art of presentation. So in the clock hour, that's why I came down to talk to you, because I measure everything I do by the clock hour. So every 5 minutes, some big thing happens. I can tell you the precise thing. In 5 minutes, there's going to be 3 laughs at least. Okay. In 15, there's going to be 1 nearly cry, and then a full-on cry in 30. And I'm just going to keep doing that over and over. And what happens is emotionally, you're hitting the amygdala, you're hitting the thalamus and hypothalamus, the emotion center of the brain, which everything I've ever learned tells me if I connect with your emotions, I can write on you permanently. Because we are with that creature. And can I take it in a weird place because I never get to talk about this?
Go for it.
I think we're still upper Paleolithic hunter-gatherers by DNA and by our software. We haven't had an update since then. So we learn by emotion tied to experience. For instance, let's pretend that I get up in the morning and my wife made woolly mammoth last night. It was dry. I didn't say anything, but I'm thirsty. It's a powerful thirst. You go down to the watering hole, and it's like 5 in the morning. You're usually not drinking at this time. You're getting a drink, and across from you is a saber-toothed tiger, and it goes, "Rawr!" And you go, because we were prelingual at the time. But something happens in your brain. Your brain takes a snapshot, and it remembers forever things like never drink water from watering hole when sun is low on ridge. And for the rest of your life, you never do that again. We're the ones that survive by doing this. So, and again, with education, if there's never emotion writes permanently, right? And I just keep going back to that. So in this, I take you to that cry. I tell the Mrs. Anderson story, very much on purpose, but they're also placed very strategically to hold you for a whole hour. So if I knew I had 3, it would be spaced differently, right? And any movie you watch has that kind of, like that. That's what keeps you there, right? So what was the one with, they had to keep the bus going a certain speed? Speed, there you go.
55 miles an hour.
Literally, right? But no, that they were actually kind of outing the structure by the way the thing was made, which is interesting. But I think any good show, especially now, to keep people's attention these days, and kids especially, it's got to have things happening all the time. Deer jumping out in front of the car, making your adrenaline spike so you remember that part of the road and say, never go faster around that corner again. We're still those creatures, which I find fascinating, right? But all those teachers who never really cared to make it interesting, they didn't write on you. They wrote on you one thing: school sucks. That shouldn't be what we're writing, right? It should be more than that. It should be, that man's crazy, he took out lithium, it dripped fire in the classroom, we thought we were gonna die. It turns out that Doc Lewis does it every year. That's a guy that has in mind how to really hook kids.
So one of the things when I watch a guest speaker, I always look for the thing that tells me whether or not they're successful is can they invoke a range of emotions to me? Can they make me laugh on one end with a story, and can they bring me to tears? And I remember that from a speech Jim Valvano, who was a coach back in the 80s. He made a famous ESPY speech in the 90s about you should always, every day, be moved to tears and be moved to happiness. And I definitely felt that during your presentation to our staff, that whole range of emotions. What goes into your mind when you're designing a keynote speech like this, or you have all your examples, but how do you know what to pick or what's going to connect with people or resonate with them?
First starts with a phone call. You're a phone call and you're saying, I'm in a new place and what you want. So it starts with that. But then, and I'm on the website, I'm looking over your town, I'm trying to do quick work on where you are and who you are. And sometimes who the person that hires me says they are isn't who they are. And I don't know until I meet everyone. When I see them, right, and I see the way they react to the first, and some of those first jokes are exploratory, like surgery. You tell the joke and they laugh and you think, okay, then I can go up a notch. There's certain jokes I didn't go to because I didn't know them well enough and we didn't have time. I take them to it. We really bond with those because they go to an edge. Because some of the kids go to an edge, and so it depends. If I come back, I'm gonna do the second act of that show. But I learned them, and then up there, and this is why I talked about I need the VGA on the stage, is because I don't know if you saw me scroll, but I scrolled a couple of times on purpose to look for modules. That's like a 5-slide run that I know lasts exactly 7.5 minutes and has a really good nearly cry and like 5 good laughs, and it's going to buy the next 15 minutes of their attention. So I watch their posture. If they're leaned forward, they don't even know they do it, but they're leaned into it. They're trying to feel the wind in their face from what you're doing. If they're leaning back and crossing their arms, they're protecting themselves from what's happening and creating a barrier. So I watch that, and then I keep tuning. I will never do that order of slides again that way because I won't have these people in front of me until, whatever. So to me, that's the fun of it, right? I can't imagine going somewhere and doing the same 60 slides for 10 cities. I think that's arrogant, right?
Right.
It's like, my show's good, you should enjoy it, sit down, shut up, you're lucky to be here. Like some teachers are like, I taught it, she just didn't learn it. Right, but this is really about crafting it in such a way that they remember. And I find people years later who remember a joke from slide 3. Sometimes, by the way,
right.
And this is that question of can I film or not? Because I think there's some people who are afraid if anyone ever sees their thing, it's the same thing they do every time and they're done, they're out of business. I'm never afraid of that, you know? I just feel like, because I'm always growing and putting new singles into the concert. But sometimes, like one time I totally abandoned everything I'd been doing and did the brand new show, and I thought, I was so proud of myself. Like a band, like if you went to see Styx and they played all new music and they didn't play Madame Blue and they didn't play, you know, Renegade and they didn't play, you'd say, you love them, but play the hits. And I learned that there are some hits there that you've got to play because somebody will say, I told them you were going to do this one thing, you didn't do it. And they're hurt, they're actually hurt. And I'm like, oh my gosh, so this is going to be a blend. Even if you've seen me 3 years ago. And I've had people say, I saw you in a YouTube video and today I got it. I had to see it twice. It's like stratified learning and it slides when they finally get there, you know what I mean?
Right. Definitely with that. What did you see from our staff today? Did you had a chance to connect with them and meet with them. You know, how do you think it went today?
The people that stayed in, this is the problem. I always wish I could stay an hour, but there are people waiting in line. They have places to be and they have new meetings, and I could tell a couple flew away, and I'm like, oh, I missed that one. I'd like to stay for the whole thing. Or some schools will bring me in and put me in a room for the rest of the day, and I just sit there and wait and see if anyone comes. I love it when they come. Sometimes they don't. They have lives. I get it. But what I saw on faces is I was connecting with them and telling their story, and that's what you do first, and then you kind of lean in, and then you can give them new things to think once you've earned that right. And I can see them, they start to write things down, even though they can download the whole thing. They need to write things down. At a moment like some of these tools are just fun, and they're in there on purpose to be just quick frosting. You can just eat and not make a whole cake. They get them to want to make a cake. They were so receptive, and the ones who came up, oh my God, they just passion coming out from everywhere. And that's the same thing with kids. Is when they get excited, they can't stop telling you their dream. And sometimes you woke the dream up. It was in there somewhere, and maybe it was going to go away, and it's back. I had it, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. I was on the road for 5 schools, five cities, and this teacher said, "Can I talk to you? Can I drive you to the airport?" And I said, "Yeah, we'll have like an hour and a half of found time." We went and had a burger, and he had won Teacher of the Year, and after that, people didn't like him anymore because he had won this award. Sometimes that happens to us in education. And then COVID hit, and his superpower is connecting with kids, building relationships the first 3 weeks of school, then he could take them anywhere. His test scores, math teacher, through the roof, from kids aren't making it to kicking it, right? Just because he starts with a relationship. Well, COVID made it where he couldn't have that time to build the relationship. He had to go straight to instruction, which just destroyed him. He was going to quit. He was going to resign. And he's a great teacher. Anyway, after we talked, he said, I don't even know why I came to this. I was going to resign, but I came to this and I saw you, and I'm not quitting. I'm going to do 1 more year just to see if I still have my superpowers. I get to do that, you know what I mean? So if that's one teacher in the room, if that's whoever, someone who's just maybe mailing it in and knows they should go back up, take their game back up again, sometimes that wakes something up in them. So I live for those things.
Yeah, I guess you're out in the field a lot more than what I am. But what are you kind of seeing in the field with our teachers? I mean, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? You want to talk a little bit about that? What
people are asking me to do is get them to re-believe. A lot of teachers feel like they lost their edge, and there's just a lot of damage there, and they want them to feel hopeful, you know. And I think there's always going to be a pre-COVID, post-COVID, like BC and AD in our lifetimes, and they're always going to say, "Is that post-COVID?" And I think there's a post-COVID us. I mean, you ever sit down and think, okay, there's a great chance to remake yourself, or to take something higher, or to add that second language, or whatever you're going to do. I think in hard times, brave people get bigger, and scared people get smaller, and a lot of that's leadership, right? I mean, if we're talking about deficits and everything we lost, don't do that too long. People get in that dark spot, right? We talk about that next hill we're going to climb and see that place, because our kids are with us, watching us look for those new opportunities. I think there's 2 kinds of schools right now. I think there are schools who are taking it up a notch. They're coming back, they're taking it up a notch. They're not throwing away anything we built during COVID, because we have new tools. Why would you throw that away? Some kids actually thrived with some of the virtual stuff we did. And there's no reason why they couldn't have headphones on, be in the back of the room, watching your virtual lessons you made during COVID while you're teaching the actual lesson, and they're actually doing better because they trigger socially, and you have a new tool. Don't throw anything away. We did some good stuff, but do an inventory of everything we did and put it somewhere. So what scares me is the schools are acting like it never happened and going right back to the way it was, hardcore. And the problem is that we're not accessing any of the trauma, the PTSD, the things kids went through, not to make them feel sorry for themselves, but to acknowledge something happened. And we learned from it, and look at us, we're bigger than we were before. So we can go on. But I think to ignore it is to act like, to me that's scary because, unexplored trauma becomes something for all of us. So I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Oh, you bring up that whole concept, the Maslow before Bloom. I got to feel safe. I got to feel wanted. I got to, to do these things. What are words or what are ways that you're kind of helping teachers in schools and students? How are you helping them to say, hey, something did happen.
Right.
Here's what we learned. Here's how we can move forward to our future.
That answer is really simple, right? Just do what we do. We teach through it. Teach through it. This thing happened. We learned, right? And if you don't learn, you get in trouble. I was trying to think of it was that battle in the Civil War where they charged. The South, I can't remember, Pickett's charge. Okay, they walk straight into the grape shot, the fire, and they're falling in waves. They're fighting like they were in Napoleon's army because we weren't learning. All those people died when they should have probably scattered to the sides and become snipers and all this stuff. No, they walked in rows and fell and died in rows because they didn't learn from subsequent wars, right? So we've been through this thing. What can we learn from this? And one thing I've learned is how to pivot. I'm 54 years old and I can freaking pivot, and I want kids to see me remake myself, and I think we can get on that. We can get on that job, and I think I saw a lot of this sort of hopeful optimism here. I felt that. I didn't feel anyone against the idea of being, what's the word, hopeful or positive. They want to get back, right?
Yeah, we were lucky to be face to face all last year. I think our staff and our community members are definitely hopeful. In your eyes, how do you sustain hope? How do you keep this feeling? At our opening meeting, we left our staff, feeling great about themselves and recharged. But how do we keep that going?
I think you look at the calendar, and as a school board member, I would say this all the time, that we do great starts, and then we don't do maintenance as well as we should. And you can tell because when you walk down the hall and a group of teachers is there, and it's just before spring break, and it's been a long haul. And they get quiet when you walk up and it's you. And you're like, oh my God, negativity is starting to grow. And it happens in the absence of positivity. It's just it's a physics thing. But I think what you gotta do is look at the year like I look at a speech. Ever so often you have to reinvest, create something fun, just to keep the momentum going, because it's a long darn year. And I think a lot of times we spend money in the beginning, we spend money after Christmas. We let them go this long. So I think leadership has to be rocket fuel and know where to put the rocket fuel and what's an oxidizer to make it actually burn. And I think of the year as a rocket. Okay, here's a rocket, right? And we have all these things to do. A rocket is mostly fuel. There's this much room for cargo, but we try to pack the whole rocket with content and curriculum and pedagogy, and it's not leaving the launch pad. It's not without that fuel. So I try to picture in my head, what is fuel? Fuel is a day when everyone gets excited, everyone gets happy. Fuel is an event where you have a cookout, families come, and it brings the whole school together. It's the opposite of not fuel, just sitting there, right? And so I think about what my goal would fit here, and I can get that into orbit, but I can't get this into orbit. It's too much to ask for. So I think we need to pick our battles and then build on the things that we can make launch, if that makes sense at all. I have weird ways of thinking. I think in metaphor, so it's,
But yeah, I like your whole thing of we've got to continue to refuel our staff to get them where we want them to be. We just can't, hey, we did this great thing on opening day. Mm-hmm. Now we've got to keep it going. So.
Your guys, you have a lit teacher I met, and I think of them as oxidizers. They're people who help ignite fuel, right? And so everyone's got fuel, and we can either waste it or not waste it. You know what I mean? It can go away and become unusable. But whenever you can, it can't always be the same subjects to the oxidizers. How do we find the almost one? Over there, and I look from the front and I can say, she's almost there. She's almost there. Her friend beside her will help her. I'll work on that little module right there until they out themselves as excited educators who are, they're on a cause. that you're
Right.
feeding, right? Sending them strategically to PD to grow them even more, and they come back with a t-shirt and they're all proud. Now you have a new oxidizer. And just keep working until no one is hiding anywhere. No one's a stowaway in that rocket. Everyone takes their turn to be that prover, that we can do anything.
I have two more things that I want to ask you about, Kevin, and I'll give you a chance to open up the floor to different things. But
you sure you want to do that?
But one is to give a shout out, but another one is to, if you could speak to one group, whether it's administrators, community members, teachers, or students, if you could pick one of those groups, or a couple if you want, if you could speak directly to them about this upcoming school year, or even their future, and things to build and sustain hope, what would you say to them?
I like to talk to administrators and teachers at the same time. I've done this a long time. If I get a bunch of administrators excited, they don't always know how to do what I just said. If I'm talking to teachers and they want to, and now the administrator sees they want to, they can feed that, and we can really do something with that. I would say that I keep focusing on this idea that brave people get bigger when things are challenging. Build a new trophy case. Build 1 million of them. I don't care where. There needs to be 1 million of them. This can be Google Draw documents online. On the website, click here to see great things high school is doing, junior high, grade school, all your programs. You click there and it literally looks like a trophy case, but all those things are little things they click and kids pop up and tell their story. That's all brand new after COVID. Yay! I want 10 more things like that. I want a bunch of new things to be excited about that proves to everyone that we're not in a funk. We're not stuck in the mud. We actually got better. And not everyone gets to say that. You know what I mean? I think that takes leadership, and it takes your leaders feeding the teachers, because they're going to get busy quick. Right? But how do we build in, how do we make it so the way we teach also becomes the example that we put in the trophy case? When they finish, it shouldn't be a test. A test doesn't look good in a trophy case. It should be something they built, that they learned through building, that the whole world says, oh my God, third graders did that? That's the stuff you want in the trophy. And I think all these teachers are doing those things kind of secretly. But you can't find them. The next year they're gone. They clear the whole thing out. I think that needs to stick. We keep trophies for 30 freaking years for ball games. All the guys are dead. They're still in the trophy case. Why aren't we keeping examples of great learning in a different trophy? That's something we could do right now. And from now on, we did that, and we had to hire a person because our teachers didn't know how to brag. So we hired a person that worked for the newspaper that liked our school. And she was our PR person, but her job was not just to show the great things we were doing and interview teachers, but to teach them how to do what she was doing and put herself out of a job. So a few years later now, we got all these stories that the whole community rallies around. People support what they've learned to be proud of. And a lot of times we do the job, but we forget. And that's why I started that way. We said, you don't have to brag about you, but let's brag about the kids, just to clear the way. So if you come up with something like that, incendiary news, that everyone loves. There's so much bad news out there. So much dissent, so much meanness, and so much. I want to replace all of that with stuff that makes people go, "Dang, that's awesome." How do we do that?
Yeah. We got a lot of great stories to tell in our district, and I think you hit the nail right on the head there. We've got to, bring more about what our kids are doing, showcase, their talents, where they're going, and where they're going to not end up, but where they want to go. Ultimately.
Let me give you an idea. I want 2 example parking lots. So you say, Kevin, if you do something cool in your classroom, make a 1-minute video and explain what you did. We'll ask more questions if we see it. And then I drop that in this Google Doc in the cool example parking lot. Kids can do it too. And by the way, we give prizes monthly for something we picked at random from that parking lot, so that everyone's doing it. And now you're getting them to hand in excellence that they never handed in before with a simple prize of some kind. You get a whole parking lot. You can show the school board, show the taxpayers, and there's a lot. How do you get that all out to the sunlight? I can see them all going, I've done that before. You see that teacher going, I've done that before. Oh, I'm going to do that. There's so much just sitting here waiting. Getting them to say it as a board member, that was the hardest thing. It's like pulling teeth, because they're great, humble teachers.
You talked a lot about vulnerability in your speech. Making our teachers feel vulnerable enough to where they can share those messages and tell those stories, and they don't have to ask permission. I think that's kind of what we're...
There's 2 categories here. There's the one where you hand it in, and then I need him to go on there and say, I saw your video, nice job. Because if you don't do that, then someone's going, he thinks he's all that. How do we get people, our culture, to be congratulatory to those who've done something well? So it's not scary to out yourself as someone who gives a darn. You know what I mean? So that's another second tier, and it's a lot, but we're dealing with humans. they're complex, right? But if we can get this started, if we just once get this started, and that's that school where the better you do, the better you do. That people support you on your learning journey. Everyone wants to work here. You know, there's evidence when it's working.
Right.
I know that's the kind of person you are, like the way you like to build things, and so I don't know. I'd like to help if I can. My time on the school board, I'm in a Mennonite community, and the thing about my community is they're very conservative, and they never brag, never brag. So they were just dyed in the wool. I just do that, right? And the tack that finally worked was that, well, let's brag about the kids. They all thought, yeah, we'll do that, we'll do that. So that changed things. So getting away from this idea that I'm somehow arrogant, if I'm proud of what I'm doing, that'll stop you, that'll hobble you.
Okay. Well, the final thing I want to ask you is something we do on every one of our podcasts, and it's to have you share a bulldog bark, where you give a shout out to anybody in the field, or maybe something you heard at the meeting, but a chance for you to sing some praise of someone or some group that's doing what they should be doing to help kids or helping communities.
Just the people I talk to, your guys, what is it called?
Buck and Bronco.
Buck and Bronco. Okay, the enthusiasm. They're like two 10-year-olds, and they say this is.
I wonder what they would think if, or they probably laugh and say, "Yep, you're right on with that."
Well, whenever you're acting like you're 10, like if I take you to a space museum and you're a real space nerd, you're on fire there. You're acting like a little boy. Whatever makes you act 10 years old is the right thing. Get that back into your teaching. If it's never been there, invite it. Those guys, they said, well, we do this on the side. This isn't really, wait a minute, why on the side? Obviously, you're both lit up when you do this, and the kids love it. It's a winner. Bringing that back in there, and saying it's okay to be that. And so those two guys for sure. Anybody I collect. And then your young lady who does reading.
Alicia Ball.
I can tell it's a Jedi. I can spot Jedis, and I can tell you to a person almost where the Jedis are in the crowd, because the people beside them are like, that's what you do, that's what you do, that's what you do. And they're like, yeah, maybe I do. I love it. I want to turn the spotlight up so they don't just burn out, because great people will burn out and they will go do another job. I don't know what they're looking for. They're looking for what they didn't ask for. A little recognition, because they do more hours, they do more time, they do more research. You can't stop them. They're tsunamis with their energy, and I know these people are here. I want to empower them, give them a special T-shirt, and call them the Possibilities Crew.
Okay. And
no one hates them for the name you give them. If you call it an academy, everyone will burn it down. Right? Call it we're going to give it a try, but we need all your help. Everyone will help. So it's a lot about the wording, right? But if the Possibilities Crew, their job is to find new tools, bring them back to PD. They don't get paid anything; they just get a T-shirt, so no one's jealous of the money they have. And the people who want to, anyone that wants to can join. There's no barrier, and those people finally have been granted something. Because you've got people here that make headlines, and they make you nervous sometimes, but they can't help it. They don't stop thinking, and they're always working on that. If you could give them a badge without them taking over the town, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was waiting for that my whole career. I know I made my superintendent nervous, but I got the news to come and do great stories about what I was doing, but that also without him telling everyone to do this. And if he says, God, don't say, do it like Kevin. You want to kill me? Say that. I literally told him, don't act like we're friends in daylight, because then I'm your boy and I can't do anything. I'm going to act like I don't like you. And that worked pretty well. I don't know. It's crazy, this thing we do.
So let's just kind of close here. I want to give you a chance to talk about what's next for you. What's on the horizon for you for the upcoming year, upcoming month? If you want to share anything, a project that you're working on or something special?
So I've been working for an educational nonprofit in Kansas. I work for a place called ESDAC, Educational Services and Staff Development Association of Central Kansas. It takes years to even know how to say that. There were 5 when I came, now there are 3. They're all nonprofit. We're, by legislation, schools without students, therefore no funding. So we're all entrepreneurial. So everything I've ever done, I've invented, and if it doesn't sell, I'm fired. That hasn't been a bad thing, actually. It's been pretty cool. It's taught me how to build what schools need. Because if I build what you say you need, you won't come to it. And it'll cost me $1,000 to build it. And that's what happens. But if I build what you need and talk you into coming, I build the next 5 miles of road because you're too busy to see the next 5 miles of road. But if I build 10, you won't come to 10. The children of Israel can only go as far as Moses could make them think they could go. So that's the way you do that. But I'm about to retire and be my own entity. And just me and my wife, Team Honeycutt. And I'm gonna do the stuff I want to do. I want to do the long-term stuff that ends in something. I could do these all year. I did 300 a year before COVID. You imagine that, city to city to city to city, doing this show. That's why I know my parts and pieces. I have to have all that stuff. I have 2 of everything, maybe 3. And it's fun. It's like having a show but never writing a new. I need to stop and I want to write a whole album, a concept album, you know, that's going to be whatever you guys want that I can help with. And if I don't know it, I'll learn it. That's what I do. But I want to work with your teachers so that I can back out and they can fill that void and be what I was while I was here. I have no ego about this. I'll stay as long as you need me. And then let me back out and make sure you have sustainability through the people we've anointed in the time that we had.
Okay.
That's my gig, and I want to be out. But I want to stay long enough that it catches on. I've got a few ideas about if I could do this in Inman, I can do it anywhere, you know, getting people to want to try some new things and be proud of those things, and taxpayers to say, look how good our schools are. Who doesn't want to be a part of that?
Right. Everybody does. Everybody wants to be a part of success.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So we want to get people to embrace the process and to come along for the journey, for the ride.
That's it.
And get it going. So.
See, life is not that destination. Life is everything that happens on the way. And I know people say that, but now I know that, right? If you think of it as a destination, you'll stop and waste 20 years. To me, the kids are already on their way. If we've stopped and they're out there facing things we don't even know, we're in the wrong place. So it should be about continuing to go. The new destination is the journey. That's how I think of it. Oh, so now I'm an old man, but I'm not going to quit learning, you know?
Continuous learner, lifelong learner. Well,
Really?
Kevin, thank you for visiting with our school. We'll have you back for sure. Definitely want to give a shout out to Jonathan Williams behind the camera and all the awesome help he did with our opening day meeting. Kevin, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Jonathan, thank you for everything. You're not just helpful, you're funny. You've got a sense of humor about the whole thing, you know? Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks.